Hi, and welcome to this quick tool review. This time around we have another product from Vevor we're taking a look at. This one is a car compressor, and I was interested because there seems to be a trend in car compressors, which used to be these little tiny package things that would take like half an hour to pump your car tire up, to these high capacity, high speed car inflators, tire inflators. So I thought they'd be interesting to take a look at. I just want to look at build and features on them. You will notice this got beaten up pretty heavily in shipping, but looks like it might have survived okay. Fortunately, they used some of this foam, which took the brunt of it. But boy, they are not gentle when handling items and shipping. This foam took the brunt of it, kind of exploded. There's some nice dents in the side there. To Vevor's credit, they used double layer cardboard, so really high puncture rating. Let's see what this one says. Usually they have it on there somewhere. I don't see the stamp. It's made in China. Usually there's like a stamp on cardboard boxes to say what their puncture strength is, but this one doesn't have it. Alrighty, so before we get into specifically looking at the item itself, it's pretty darn heavy. It comes in a nice bag, which is kind of nice. That's typical for car items, but let's take a look at some specs here. Here is the Amazon page for it. And the item goes for $139.99 currently on Amazon. 10 cubic feet a minute, which is pretty high. You know, most car air compressors, even on a car tire, would take like 15 minutes to blow up. They're saying 30 seconds for a car tire, I believe, not a truck tire. 12 volts, 150 PSI maximum pressure. So that's kind of cool. They sell different models with lower cubic feet per minute. And what else do we have with the features? I just want to show you that there's a lot of competitors out there for these. This is a new category that seems to be up and coming, which kind of surprised me. They're claiming it's 2 times faster. Well, it happens to have 2 pistons, which you will see in a moment. So that explains that. Comes with 3 adapters for balls, tires, and other miscellaneous items like that, other inflatable items. Has thermal shutoff, so it'll automatically shut off before it damages it. They say it's lightweight. It's not very lightweight, although lightweight probably for what it is. 6.5 foot power cord, 26 foot rubber air hose. There's another interesting thing, because most of these car units do not come with a long hose. So this one you can sit in your engine compartment right next to the battery and then run the hose to all the wheels of your car. That's kind of a nice feature. We'll get into that when we open this up. Here's an interesting spec. So they're claiming 150 PSI, 10 cubic feet a minute, maximum pressure, maximum airflow, but not maximum airflow at maximum pressure, I am guessing. So my guess is at 150 PSI, it's not doing 10.6 cubic feet a minute. Maximum 75 amps. That means this thing better be darn close to your battery. You're not going to put this in your lighter like you normally would with most car air compressors. So this probably needs to be clamped directly on the battery to be functional. They're claiming this guy is 26.3 pounds. It's definitely heavy. 14 by 6 by 9 inches roughly, or 14 and a half by 9. So it's fairly small. All right, so pulling this guy out of the bag. It's a nylon bag. At least it seems like nylon. Got a bright, shiny unit. Oh, let's see. It fits in there kind of snugly. And there's that 20-foot long hose, 20-some foot long hose they were talking about. That's impressive. So that's some fairly heavy wire they used. Yeah, it looks like better than 10-gauge wire they used on the clamps. 75 amps, questionable whether that would be any period of time. I like this. Look at that. That's a regular compressor fitting. So the hose they provide is got a regular compressor hose fitting on the end. That's really unique. And then there's your inflator on the end, which, let's see, interesting. So this would thread on a Schrader valve, but they provide a quick connect along with the other adapters in here. So here's a quick connect for tire, and you've got a ball inflator and something just to, oh, this would be like for like an inflatable mattress or something, 2 different sizes of those. So that's nice they included those, and this is a nice feature. Interesting. So this is all for Schrader valves. There's no press to valve anything here. But the unit's pretty nice. It's got anti-vibration mounts. So it's got rubber feet, then anti-vibration mounts on top of that. So that's pretty cool. Yeah, this is a really heavy-duty handle. And there's some springs that press in on the handle, which just provides some friction. That's an interesting way to provide friction. I thought I was going to like want to locate the handle in one direction or another, and I like the fact that the stop hits before you hit the hose, because if it hit the hose, you could break the hose off where it meets here. So that's kind of a nice feature too. They did some thinking on this one. This is not your average just throw it together quickly, see what happens kind of design. So the main motor is in the bottom section here, and you have dual pistons. So I'm guessing they alternate back and forth. So one side's down, the other side's up. That way the motor is doing an intake stroke, lowest force on one side at a time. That way, if it did both at the same time, first of all, this would vibrate twice as much rather than rock side to side. But on top of that, you draw twice as much current from the motor and then less. And I think the design would be better would be alternating. So we'll see what they did. Attached to the long compressor hose is a valve with a release, so you can store the highest pressure you're meeting there, and it shows pressure in both PSI and bar, which is good for European brethren and pretty much everyone else in the world but us. I was going to open up one of these heads to see what the piston rings look like, but then I realized I don't have replacement gasket material for them. And, you know, typically when you remove a gasket, you should put it back when you're done with a new one, not put the old one back. And I don't have the ability to do that. So I'm going to let this go and not open the piston side. We'll see what we can see from other sides here. All right. So some pretty heavy wiring here, which makes sense. Has a circuit board with relays. That must be the sensor that does overpressure. That's really interesting. There's a couple small capacitors here. I don't see any active. Oh, there is a IC here. So somewhere there must be a temperature sensor that tells it to disconnect. And boy, you look at the wire gauge on this, and yeah, beefy. That's one word for it. It's definitely beefy. So that's pretty cool. They did not cheese on one of the more expensive ingredients, which is copper. And it'd be interesting to see if the motor was copper wound as well. Oh, also, the handle is part of a crossbar assembly that serves as a common air bus for the output hose. That also is very creative. I like that. That's some good thinking right there. One of the big advantages to DC motors, which this thing has, is that with all the drone designs and all of the electric car designs, big advancements are being made in improving the efficiencies of DC motors. So maybe this took advantage of some of that. I know over in China, drones are a huge thing. DJI is one of the biggest drone manufacturers in the world, and it is a Chinese company, and they buy their motors from somewhere over there. I wanted to dig into this thing deeper to at least see the motor, but it will involve getting into seals, I think, and I really don't want to upset any of the seals because I don't have anything to replace them. And again, once you remove a seal, you probably should replace it with a new one rather than try and reuse it. And it's new, so maybe you get away with it, but then maybe you wouldn't. In order to get this apart, you have to take this off the manifold. And so rather than risk that, I think we're just going to go straight for the demo and see how this thing works. So one thing, when you're trying to line up long screws and you don't have a cylinder for them to stay centered in, with this guy, it can go at all kinds of angles and it makes it kind of hard to get the screw started. So that change to their design of their plastic mold would be an improvement, although I'm pretty sure they're not expecting people to take this apart. By the way, all of these screws, all 4 of these, are self-tapping sheet metal screws that go into the sheet metal top here, and all 4 of them are stripped, probably done at the factory during manufacturing. Not great, but again, they never intended for this to be taken apart and put back together again, I am sure. All right, so here we are. We've got it hooked up to a flat truck tire. There's a pretty big truck tire too. So it's almost completely flat. It's down to like 2 PSI. And we've got this thing set up in the compartment here. And considering how much current this thing can take, I think we're going to do it with the engine running. I probably recommend that. They claim 75 amp peak. It couldn't do that continuously. Make sure your cable's out of the way of fan blades and things like that, because the cables are pretty long, especially when it's sitting in the engine compartment. and then we'll see how long it takes to fill this tire up. Just worried about starting it up on the engine, so we moved it to the ground just in case. See how much this thing vibrates, because it's probably not perfect balance by any stretch. Already noticed the quick change boot, the little rubber protector has split all the way through. Just came right off. It was nice looking while it lasted, about 30 seconds. All right, so here's the tire pretty much totally flat. I'm gonna fire this guy up. That really is blowing it up quickly. I don't believe the PSI reading on this. That is completely wrong. There is no chance this is 60 PSI. At least no chance the tire is 60 PSI, but maybe you got to measure pressure with the thing off. Okay, it is going really quickly though. We're at 30 seconds, and I'd say it's better than halfway full. Although it's going to slow down at the end when you're trying to put in a lot of cubic feet just to raise the pressure a little bit. I am impressed at how fast it's filling it. We're at a minute. They claim for big truck tires, 4 minutes. All right, so I turned the compressor off just to see where the pressure is. And we are currently at 30 PSI. So in 1 minute flat, it took this big tire. According to the truck, we're about 5 PSI away from full. It says 33. So note that while it's filling, you can't use the pressure indicator to tell you anything, because it's much higher pressure here than it is inside the tire. So you got to stop periodically, which is unfortunate, but livable, survivable, especially on the road. Now we're at 40 PSI, so that was too much. So it has a valve to let pressure out. That was too quick. We're at 35 PSI, 25, no, actually. So in a little over a minute, it overfilled it. Now we're at 35 PSI, which is a little bit high. Overall, the build quality is okay. Not great, but it certainly lives up to its promise of filling quickly. That's for sure. It filled that tire, a big truck tire, in about 1:20 minutes, and that overfilled it, so probably a little over 1:05 to proper pressure. So that's very impressive. I like the long hose. The rubber protector on the quick disconnect, it failed right off the bat, just tore right off. The alligator clips for the battery mount are very decent quality relative to other ones I've seen. They're heavy duty, and the cable is nice, heavy duty. They gave actual rubber hose instead of that plastic curly Q hose like some of the other ones. My brother-in-law has this old unit over here, and it's useless now because, well, it has standard compressor fitting, but all of the curly Q hose broke. It disintegrated in the pouch only after a couple of years. So rubber hopefully will last better, so that's another nice plus. The quick connector works pretty well. Overall, I think it's pretty darn good. Thanks for watching. Hope you find it useful. Hope to see you next time.